Hey folks, how you doing? This is American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.com. Let me crank up some sounds here in my head. I had to do some recording yesterday and had to pull out some of my stuff out of the studio and had to reconfigure when I got home. So some of the things might be off. You might not be hearing me all that well, but that's okay. Whoops. Here's something that we have to consider, folks. Here's something that we have to consider. Let's consider, you know what that word means, don't you? Let's think about what basic man understands. Let's take a look at that for a minute. What does man understand? What has man created within himself and within society to make it better? Right? What has man done that would ever give him the ability to make life better for himself and for others and for all those people that are around him? What makes man, here's the question, what makes man consider himself better than everything else around him? Well, let me break that down into more of a localized area. How can one person say that he's better than the next guy? How can one woman decide that she's better than the woman next door or her coworker or whoever? How can a person really think about those things? How can a person become those things? How can a person develop the idea that they are better than everyone else? Okay? I never could understand that. I never could understand how a person could sit back and say, well, you know, look at this. This is what it is, and we have this, and we have that. And we have, you know, look at all my stuff. Look at this. I got a $40,000 truck. I've got a $120,000 home, and that is not that expensive, folks. Then you have the people above that say, well, I'm better than you because I have a $500,000 home and I have an $80,000 car. And how can people get to that point where nothing such as helping your neighbor out or helping the person down the street or whatever, how can a person get to the point where they're so narcissistic and selfish and self-centered to where they cannot help somebody down the street and they think of themselves better than everybody else? How can they do that? How can they do that? Okay? How can they put themselves on a higher level than somebody else? What makes them do that? What causes them to be so so selfish, so self-centered, so narcissistic, so blatantly blind to the needs of others? How can they become, or how did they become so blind to the needs of others? What was it that caused them to do that? What was that? What was that caused them to be selfish? What was it that caused them to be Well, what was it that caused them to be who they are? Now, the answer is not all that simple. I know the explanation might be complicated, but the answer is not all that simple. Because when you really look at everything, and you look at everyone, and you examine every little detail about their life, just pick somebody, pick a friend, pick a family member. When you look at them, when you examine their life, it's not that difficult to find out that they're not very helpful to other people. They're not very, they don't have the purpose of, oh, if I have this, I'll give this. No, they're more like, hey, look at how much money I made. Hey, look at this. I've got I've got this home. I've got this. It makes me sick to my stomach to see someone making so much money and not being able to say, you know what, I don't need that much. I think whatever I make, I'll take a portion of it and go down here and give it away and whatever. The greatest example of doing that, from what I hear, is Keanu Reeves, the actor who, donates a majority of his, money to charities and stuff like that. It's not very known that he does that because he doesn't want people to know, but people know, so. But other people do that without ever, anyone else finding out. So the fact of the matter is how do people get to that point of saying, I want it all. I want everything, and I'm not going to give any of it to anyone, and I'm not going to help. How do they get to that point? To me, that's a mental disorder. That's my unprofessional psychological opinion, but that is a mental disorder. I'm being sarcastic because I've studied psychology and I understand why the person's mind would even go there. So I'm asking you, what is your take on these people who just do not have the capacity of being selfless and have more of an ideal within themselves to be selfish? I never could understand that. That's just me. I just never could understand that. Even though I know the mechanisms behind it, even though I know, how tab A goes in the slot B, and, psychologically speaking, I know how all that works, but I don't know what triggers a person to become selfish. Is it fear? Were they at some point denied something? I still haven't figured that one out, that little portion of it. Everything else I understand, but I just don't understand that little portion of it. And it's very helpful to know these things because of the fact that people, when you look out on the political arena and when you see the players within this global chess game, you begin to examine, you begin to see the areas in which these people have this they have this sense of themselves in this regard, that they look at their current situation, whether they're a president of a company or a president of a country or a secretary of state or an ambassador or some sort of leader in a country. You begin to look at this stuff and you begin to see, hey, wait a minute, they're not playing on the same playing field as we are. They're not playing. They're playing the game, but they're going over to their coaches, if you will, for the sports metaphor. They're going to the coaches on the sideline saying, wait a minute, that team's doing this. Yeah, I know. Let's do this. So what they're doing is they're not only planning strategy, they're not only setting out and engaging in a strategic effort to overcome the barriers and all of the problems that they have in their own country, But they're beginning, behind the scenes, without, very few people seeing, they're beginning to change their whole way of doing things in terms of, I don't want the other team to know we're going to do this. I don't want the other team to know that we're going to dress somebody up in their, uniform, their costume, their flag, their whatever, and they're going to go over there and play on that team and find out all the information. Well, that's called espionage and spying, and we all know that. But this is what happens, folks. People get so selfish and so into themselves that they start destroying everything around them, guising it in good intentions. And it really begins to wear down the whole makeup, the whole thing, as in terms of who does what, when, where, how. It starts breaking all of those mechanisms. It starts breaking all those mechanisms down. It starts breaking down this thing that was built upon people and upon this, and corporations begin to get involved. And this is politically speaking now. It begins to, suck the life out of people, and this monster of just, I don't know what to call it. It's just growing on the backs of people that support people supporting this government, this country, this company, this organization. In other words, the more citizens, the more, politically speaking and worldly speaking now, the more that people of countries begin to support a government of their country, and the more that government, that organization begins to spread their cancer to the rest of the world, the more that the life of the citizens are sucked out of their very being to support this cancerous spread of evilness across the world. That's the easiest way I can say that you've got people in Washington, D.C. who are on one side saying, yes, Trump's the greatest. He's going to, make America great again. And he's doing that, by the way. You can see that. But there's also people looking at him going, no, we have to take him out because we want this country to collapse, because we want socialism, and we want this country to look exactly like Venezuela it is right now, and we want to do that. And so you have that contention on that side of the aisle. Politically speaking, politically speaking, they're on a suicide mission. Okay, and this is democratic socialists, this is liberals, this is some libertarians, not all of them, but some of them. This is the Republican fascist and the democratic socialist, and you name it, this is what they want. They're on a political suicide mission to collapse the United States into this third world country that looks exactly like any other country, including Venezuela. That's what they want. I don't really give a rip what your opinion about, it's not going to work that way, because I don't care what your opinion, your view, your particular style of the way that you convey the message of what you believe. I don't care. That's your thing. That's your view. That's your perspective. But you're not looking at it as a whole. You're not examining it as you would examine anything else in totalitarian, in a total expression of reality. You're not looking at the whole thing and saying, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. You're only looking at portions and pieces and bits and little things. You're looking at just one aspect of it and saying, oh, that's the way. Oh, yeah, it's going to work out. No. You have to look at what's going on behind the scenes. You have to look at it and examine the whole thing. I've been doing that since Carter was president from 76 to 1980. Okay, from 1976 to 1980, Jimmy Carter was president. He was the governor of Georgia. And from 1977, when that whole Grenada, 77, 78, 79, right before he got out, that whole Grenada helicopter crash trying to, rescue the hostages, that kind of thing. I began to look at it at that point of view, from that perspective at that time, and I can tell you right now, from my perspective, from my point of view, it was all a sham. All of it. And that's when I realized the president is nothing more than a CEO of a company. The board of directors, that would be Congress, orders him to do whatever it is it has to do. Well, not orders him, but they're the business managers. The president, the CEO, is just there overseeing things, and if he likes it, he likes it. He signs a document, things into law, that kind of thing, or he vetoes it and sends it back to Congress. That's all he does. He's a figurehead that goes around to different countries, shaking hands, getting photo ops, telling the countries, yeah, we want to work with you, but you're going to have to talk to Congress. You're going to have to talk to this person and that. It's chain of command, basically, as in the military. It's basically chain of command. The president goes and sees other world leaders and then tells their ambassadors, and then the ambassadors tell, the liaisons, and the liaisons tell Congress or the people that are near Congress, and then they go and tell Congress, their Congress representatives, and all that, and then it gets finally, talked about in Congress. That's pretty much takes well over, 6 months at least for that to happen. So you have to look at this whole thing, not just bits and pieces of it. You have to look at the whole thing and then decide for yourself what you want to do. Okay? You have to look at the whole thing and decide for yourself what you want to do. Have you ever had, as a kid, I had this. I had the world map on my wall. Have you had the world map on your wall, if I can talk? Have you had the world map on your wall in your bedroom or in your classroom? You went to school, you saw it there. This is what I'm talking about, folks. Look at the whole thing. Look at everything that you can see. Look at everything. Not just, well, I'm just going to look over here because this is all I want to see, because I don't want to look at all the negative stuff going on, because I don't want my day ruined. Folks, what's going on behind the scenes has already ruined your day. Okay? There is nothing in this world that... There's nothing in this world that would make me happier than to see everybody get along. All right? Nothing in this world would make me happier than to see everyone getting along. I know for a fact that is never going to happen. That's a utopian type of idealism. It's never going to happen. There's always going to be contention. If you don't believe that there's always going to be contention, how about taking 10 people in a room and you be the neutral person? Take 10 people in a room, 11 with you being neutral, and ask them questions. And once you ask them questions, you take a book, I don't care what book, grab one off your shelf, put it in the middle of them on a table, and then ask them, what do you know about that book? And then look at them and go, I've got to step out of the room for a minute. I got to go do some things. I'll be right back. You're going to come back and you're going to find at least a third of those people know about that book, whatever book you put down. At least a third. Okay? And the rest of them won't know. Why? Because they don't take the time to look at everything. And the 25% to a third that you've talked to that know about that book are the people that really look at everything and examine everything. I would call it pseudo OCD, whatever, because they have to understand what's going on. And by the way, once you explain all of that to everybody in the room, those three people are going to be contagious, and that logic is going to seep out into everyone else in the room. This is how we can all get along. But there's always going to be contention. It doesn't matter if it's one person against one or a million against a million or 7.2 billion. You've got somewhere some 100 or so million people contending and being contentious with other people. You're always going to have that. There's never going to be a moment where you're going to have any long-term peace until you come to the realization that, one, you have to look at everything, and two, you have to direct your attention to things that you can handle and make right. Logic, 1 + 1 = 2, folks. It's that simple. So let me get on to some news here, but before that, I just want to let you know that American Liberty Radio Network needs your support. So whatever you can do, you can share it, you can like it, I'm on YouTube, so please like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to help out as much as you possibly can, if you decide to do so, I should say it the right way. Go to AmericanLibertyRadio.com. Go to the sponsors page. You can advertise on the network if you'd like. All the information is right there on the sponsors page on the website. And please consider sponsoring American Liberty Radio Network and advertise on our network as well. Thank you. Or if you just want to become a patron, you can do that too. On the sponsors page on AmericanLibertyRadio.com, there is a Become a Patron link. Click that, drop $1 in the kitty to keep the lights on around here, and I would appreciate that very much. You guys rock. Speaking of rock, independent music is a big thing now. Independent filmmaking, independent authors, they're big now. They're just huge. You don't need, big giant publishers to do your book. You don't need, to try to find an agent somewhere to do, whatever it is you need to do as far as acting or filmmaking or whatever. You don't need all that. You have YouTube, Vimeo, you got all these other outlets you can go to. You've got people making fan films. You got independent artists are the backbone of entertainment now. If you look at every single aspect of entertainment, a good portion of those are independent filmmakers, independent authors, independent musicians. Huge area for independent people who are not connected with any mainstream organization. And let me tell you this. If you are one of those independent filmmakers, independent authors, independent musicians, there's a place for you, and that place is Radio Rock 92.6 The Blitz. Radio Rock 92.6 The Blitz. And you can go to their website at 926theblitz.rocks. That's ROCKS. 926theblitz.rocks. Go check out Mr. Tom Slick on the Morning Brew. Send him information about your independent authors or independent filmmakers or independent musicians. Send him that information and he will get back to you. He's a very busy man. Mr. Tom Slick over at Radio Rock 92.6 The Blitz. Listen to his show every morning on Radio Rock. Go check him out. Radio Rock 92.6 The Blitz, 926theblitz.rocks. Tell him Wayne Pierce over at American Liberty Radio Network sent ya. All right, Radio Rock 92.6 The Blitz, 926theblitz.rocks. Yeah, go check him out. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hey, at the bottom of the hour, I'm going to go to break. But before I do, let me remind you of Mr. Nick Tucker. Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker on Facebook, and he's slowly transitioning from there to gab.ai. That's Distorted Reality NT. You can find him over there, Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker. And you can listen to his podcast at distortedreality.podbean.com, distortedreality.podbean.com, or right here on American Liberty Radio Network. So yes, Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker on Facebook and Distorted Reality NT on gab.ai. So, yeah. Hey, you know, there's a lot of people who do particular shows like this. They talk about certain aspects of what's happening in government and in the world, and, you know, ecumenically and philosophically and politically, and they do this. So there's a lot of people out there that do this. I have a different perspective on certain things. And I can see things a little bit differently than other people because, well, again, I look at the whole thing. I just don't look at just one little aspect and go from there. No. I look at the whole thing. And that's why I can be so, I can zero in on certain things, and I know a great deal about those things because I see the whole thing. You know, I just don't grab one thing and ignore everything else is what I'm saying. So if you would like, you can also check out another person, a couple of other people, actually. Mr. Brian Lang over at Live Truth Radio and Television, livetruthradio.com. Go check him out. Brian Lang over at livetruthradio.com. And also, Mr. John Christopher J. Man Collins over at thetruthwar.net. That would be Brian Lang at Live Truth Radio and TV at livetruthradio.com, and John Christopher J. Man Collins over at thetruthwar.net. Go check those two out. Awesome, gentlemen. Awesome. Anyway, let me get the break. Let me go to break. I shall return because, you know, hey, I got a show to do. So why don't you sit back, relax, enjoy, and I shall return in, 3 minutes and 30 seconds. AmericanLibertyRadio.com is the website. AmericanLibertyRadio@USA.com is the email address. AmericanLibertyRadio@USA.com. That's what I meant. AmericanLibertyRadio@USA.com. Folks, going to break. I'll be right back right after this. Broadcasting from FEMA Region 8, sharing the truth one fact at a time, without all the BS. This is the American Liberty Radio Network.
The people of the world are now seeing what the globalists have always intended. They are engaged in a campaign to rid the world of 90% of humanity. They are well on their way of achieving this. But, with the corrupt mainstream media aligning themselves with such diabolical philosophies, the globalists are now being exposed and the people are now seeing them for who they truly are. Thanks for the most part to the independent media revealing the connection of the mainstream media to globalists like George Soros and others who invest and spread disinformation.
Don't say you haven't been warned. Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker. DistortedReality.podbean.com and Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker on American Liberty Radio Network. Sharing the truth one fact at a time without all the BS. American Liberty Radio Network. AmericanLibertyRadio.com.
There's a show that's not afraid to ask questions no one else will ask. Not afraid to say
what no one else will say.
Friday nights at 7 p.m. Listen to Restricted Airspace with Tina Marie, where no topic is off limits. Conspiracy theories, paranormal activities, hoaxes, the unexplained. It's what we talk about. Question everything. Trust no one. Restricted Airspace with Tina Marie. Friday at 7 p.m. on the KCOR Digital Radio Network out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hey folks, how you doing? Welcome back. This is American Liberty Radio Network. American Liberty Radio Network right here on Spreaker.com. You can also go to gab.ai at American Liberty Radio. Check me out on gab.ai. Yeah. Folks, it is the 21st of April, 2017, and Le Pen responds. Marine Le Pen over at the French presidential candidate Marie Le Pen has called for crackdown on terrorism in her country with a specific focus on Islamicists and foreigners with terror ties and the expulsion of radical imams and closures of Islamic mosques. The leading candidate proposes battle plan to make French safe again. In the wake of the latest attack on Paris, of which ISIS has claimed responsibility, Le Pen has called for immediate action to be taken in the interest of national security, drawing the clear connection between Islam, foreigners, and terrorism in Europe. Quote, preachers of hate must be expelled, Islamist mosques are closed. She said secularism has to be applied strictly and in line with our Republican principles, those which oppose the incessant provocation and spreading of the sectarian word of Islamicists, unquote. She also says, wow, my stomach does not like coffee this morning. Sorry. She goes on to say, quote, if I am elected president, this is what Marine Le Pen says, French presidential candidate, she says, I will put this battle plan against terrorism and penal weakness into force immediately so that we can protect the French people and so that France and the French Republic can live on, unquote. Le Pen said she would call for a return to French sovereignty, a resurrection of national borders, and a rejection of the European Union's effectively borderless Schengen free movement zone. She also declared that if elected, she would take action against all persons in France with known affiliations to terrorist groups. I'm going to put that on American Liberty Radio podcast right there, folks. Do you think there's a revolution in France right now? There was just after the United States became a country. There was a revolution, and the people took out their communist or what we would consider communist leaders of that time in the 1700s. Yeah, there was a huge French Revolution over there. Yeah. So, you think there's a revolution going on in France right now? Now, get this one. This is different. French candidate Fillon calls for suspension of campaign activities after Paris attack, calls for, quote, international coalition to fight terrorism, unquote. French presidential hopeful François Fillon has called for election campaign events and activities to be suspended following the shooting in Paris. The attack came 2 days before France goes to the polls to elect its president. One police officer was killed and 2 injured in a shooting on the central boulevard of Champs-Élysées. I think is that how you pronounce it? Champs-Élysées? I don't know. I'm not French. It's in central Paris. One passerby, a foreign woman, was also lightly injured in the incident. French President François Hollande later said all leads indicate that the attack was of a quote-unquote terrorist nature. Quote, we should first show our solidarity to the police officer who was killed, to those who were injured, and then to all those who risk their lives to ensure our safety, unquote, Fillon continued. The Islamic State terrorist group has claimed responsibility for the attack. The attacker was killed by police. Later speaking at his campaign headquarters, Fillon called for the creation of an international coalition to fight terrorism. There already is. According to Fillon, quote, the more the U.S., Europe, Russia, Iran, Turkey, and the countries of the Gulf are divided, the more the victory against Islamic totalitarian is delayed. In other words, you're never going to get Iran and Turkey to sign on to a coalition to fight terrorism. Never. It's never going to happen. They are harboring terrorists. Iran and Turkey, they are harboring terrorists. That's just the way it is, folks. Turkey just fell to Islam. Yeah, because they now have an Islamic leader, and it's going to be hell on earth if you try to stop them. Okay? That's just my view. It's just... I don't know, folks. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can view whatever you want. Doesn't matter. But if you're not looking at the whole thing, if you're not examining the whole thing from front to back, upside down, backwards, everything else, you're not going to see the whole picture. I stand behind Marie Le Pen. I do. I stand behind peace, freedom, liberty, and security for a nation that is industrialized, that is working with capitalism to innovate with the resources that they have. I stand with the people of France, with the citizens of France, saying enough's enough. We have to look at the whole picture, folks. We have to examine every single thing that there is. Pat Buchanan at Buchanan.org. Is democracy in a death spiral? Societal unity is disappearing into a sinkhole. Among its idealized features is the New England town meeting. There, citizens argued, debated, decided questions of common concern. Town hall meetings today recall a time when folks came out to mock miscreants locked in stocks in the village square. Congressmen returning to their districts in Holy Week were shouted down as a spectator sport. A Trump rally in Berkeley was busted up by a mob. The university there has now canceled an appearance by Ann Coulter. I agree with Ann Coulter. I agree that she has First Amendment right to speak her mind, and she will do that. I agree with her. I don't agree with everything she says, but I agree with that portion of it. We have to look at the whole thing, folks. We have to look at the whole thing. I do not give one rip about people's opinion that says we don't have to look at the whole thing. We have to look at the whole thing. We have to examine everything there is, including, oh, by the way, speaking of Ann Coulter just a second ago, UC Berkeley, where she was supposed to speak and they canceled her, reverses decision to cancel Ann Coulter visit. Let's go check that one out. UC Berkeley officials on Thursday reversed their decision to cancel conservative commentator Ann Coulter's appearance at the university, but have rescheduled it from next week to May 2nd, according to a statement from the university. Coulter's speech on immigration will be held at an, quote, appropriate, protectable venue, unquote, the university said. The university did not disclose the location of the speech, but the university said it had advised Coulter's representatives and the Berkeley College of Republicans, which organized the April 27th Coulter event, that the speaking engagement would take place next month. So there you go. They've canceled, or they've should I say uncanceled? Is that a word? So she will speak at Berkeley, the most far-left liberal university in California. Well, them and UC Davis. But, you know, Zero Hedge is reporting, quote, we're at the mercy of the algos, unquote. More news sites say Facebook's, quote-unquote, fake news filter is killing traffic. It seems as though the first confirmed victim of Facebook's fake news crusade may be none other than the Chicago Tribune. Yesterday, we highlighted Infowars.com has this article from Zero Hedge for 21st of April, 2017. And Zero Hedge is saying, yesterday we highlighted an article written by Chicago Tribune's deputy editor for digital news, Kurt Gessler, which provided a fairly compelling set of facts to suggest that Facebook's fake news filter was suppressing the distribution of articles from media sources which undoubtedly consider themselves quote-unquote legitimate news outlets, with the definition of legitimate left solely to the discretion of Facebook execs, of course. As it turns out, the Chicago Tribune was not alone, as Gessler's article prompted a whole host of digital publishers to come forward with similar stories of traffic destruction. Per Digiday, is that what it is? Digiday? Quote, Facebook's news feed algorithm changes have been part of publishing reality for many years, but to Matt Karolian, director of audience engagement at the Boston Globe, quote, last month was probably the worst we've had in reach in about a year. The fact everyone else is seeing it is a little bit troubling, unquote. Aisha Khan said Facebook reach has also been sliding to the religion news service, where she's social media editor. Quote, reach spiked in summer and we started hitting 15 to 25,000, or 25,000 reach on bigger posts that were polarizing, unquote. Khan said, quote, it wasn't just political posts, but any kind of interviews, anything that had potential to get a big reaction, got a big reaction. But we have noticed that kind of stopped, and by January it was just gone. Now we're worse off than we were to start with, unquote. The change has happened even as RNS, Religious News Service, has been doing more video, including live video and photos and things that Facebook has encouraged. Khan said RNS is still trying, though, with plans for more regularly scheduled live video and videos generally. Meanwhile, Vocative showed a tweet from Kurt Gessler. The Trib is seeing some subtle but significant changes in our Facebook post reach. Anyone else seeing this? Rob Blatt says, this looks somewhat familiar to me as well. It's not just you. The Chicago Magazine also corroborated the Tribune's data. and all that. So I'm going to put the rest of this up on American Liberty Radio Podcast because you got to look at the whole thing, folks. You got to look at the whole thing. You got to look at everything that is there. You have to look at everything that is there. It's there, folks. It's staring you in the face. And if you can't see it, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I don't. I don't understand why you can't see it. I don't. Now, the one, and I'll say this because I know that a lot of people have, their views, particularly on Alex Jones and all this. Well, let me tell you something. If you're looking at the whole thing and you as I've said before, you got to look at the whole thing. But if you're looking at the whole thing and you see these little things pop out like, Glenn Beck saying whatever he says, Alex Jones saying what he says, Michael Savage saying what if you see these things pop out, don't you think you'd have to pay attention to those things to see what they're saying? Wouldn't you? I mean, seriously? Couple of things. The man who shouted Allah Akbar after murdering 3 hated white people, Paul Joseph Watson at InfoWars from the 18th of April, 2017. 39-year-old Corey Ali Muhammad, who shot 3 people dead in downtown Fresno today before shouting Allah Akbar, also hated white people, according to police. He fired off 16 shots as he targeted random people in a 300 block of North Van Ness Avenue. The shooter was already wanted in connection with the murder of a security guard outside a motel last week. According to Fresno Police Chief Jerry Dyer, quote, Muhammad had expressed hatred toward white people and the government, and the chief, unquote. The chief said he shouted Ali Akbar before turning himself into police. It was since emerged that the killer had branded Steve Bannon a white devil on his Facebook page. They're going to take this to the racist side of things, I believe. But I haven't read the whole thing, so I'm going to let you decide where they're going to take this. This is from the 18th. This is from like 3 days ago. So if you haven't heard about this, I'm putting it up on American Liberty Radio Podcasts, so you can take a gander at that. If you would, please, thank you. Like and share the page. That would be great. Oh, by the way, did you hear about MSN? As soon as my browser decides to stop with the all the freaking ads, MSN said that Alex Jones is just pretty much a character. Well, let me ask you this question pertaining to that. He responded, by the way, so I'm going to put that response up on American Liberty Radio Podcast. It's a video, so and I ran the audio of it, but I'll show you the video. It's up on. It's from the 19th of April, 2017. Alex Jones responds to the venomous lies being spewed by the mainstream media in an attempt to smear the 22-plus year fight he has waged for freedom and liberty in this country. I'm going to put his video up on American Liberty Radio Podcast. I'm going to put the whole link up there. There's a couple of things you need to take a look at, but I'm going to put the whole link up there in the comment section. And it's got Stephen Colbert on there. It's got, I don't like Stephen Colbert. Never have, never will. He was funny with Jon Stewart, but right now, with what he's doing now, is just stupid. I'm going to put the whole link up there. The whole link with, you'll see it. It pops up. You got Stephen Colbert. You got, all that. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to let you be the judge of that. I think anybody criticizing Alex Jones for what he does is stupid. Number one, right off the top of my list. Stupid. Okay? Just going to lay it out for you. Because if anybody can do better than he can with the information and the connections that he has and the whistleblowers that has come to him and the people and the generals and the politicians that he's talked to in the last 22 years, if you can do better, do it. You can't because you don't want to. So that's my take on that, and I'm going to move on. Max Slavo over at if I can speak because I'm so damn pissed off about people who seem to think that they're better than everybody else. Remember I talked about selfishness in the beginning? In the last segment? Max Slavo at SHTF. You all know what that means. SHTFplan.com. Max Slavo. Operation Gotham Shield. U.S. government to, quote, simulate nuke blast over Manhattan, unquote, as actual war nears. False flag watch is now active. A general alert is out for something major in the near or immediate future. Hopefully it is just another false alarm instead of another false flag. Either way, the danger is at hand. Given all that is going on in the world, it is downright eerie to discover that the federal government is once again staging mock disasters that draw disturbing parallels with current world events. In just a few days, during April 24th through April 26th, Operation Gotham Shield will commence. It is a tabletop joint agency exercise involving FEMA, Homeland Security, and a myriad of law enforcement and military agencies. WMD, chemical and biological units will all be on hand as a response is tested for a quote-unquote simulated nuclear detonation over the United States' foremost urban center in the iconic and densely populated island of Manhattan and nearby shores of New Jersey. The potential for a more explosive false flag to spin out of control by hijacking and converting the simulated actions is all too real. This is closely related to the mechanism that many researchers believe was at work on the day of 9/11, nesting a false flag attack inside a series of large-scale training operations which invoked emergency powers and simulated attacks in locations that were actually hit. According to the Voice of Reason, quote, on April 18th through May 5th, 2017, state, local, and federal organizations alike are planning for Operation Gotham Shield 2017, a major nuclear detonation drill in the New York, New Jersey area along with the U.S.-Canadian border. During this exercise, 4 nuclear devices, 2 of which are rendered safe during the U.S. Department of Defense Vital Archer exercise, and 1 successful 10-kiloton detonation in the New York, New Jersey area, along with 1 smaller detonation on the U.S.-Canadian border, are to take place. This is a simulation, folks. Let me remind you of this. This is a simulation, not an actual event. This is what's called a drill. This is what happened on 9/11/2001, and guess what? It was an actual event. Yeah. It was yeah. So there you go. This is what this article is talking about. Excuse me. So I will put this up on American Liberty Radio podcast for you to take a look at and for you to research. Keywords in that, folks, would be drill. Keywords in that would be simulated nuke blast over Manhattan. Go look up that one. Also, Operation Gotham Shield. Go look that up as well. Man. Sorry, I'm coughing and, trying not to belch on air. That's bad radio, folks. Hey, let me go over here. Of course, ISIS claims responsibility for Paris attack and manhunt underway for CIA Vault 7 leaker. CIA FBI joint investigation examines hundreds of agency employees and contractors. So anyway, I just don't, I'm having a difficult time understanding why people cannot get any of this. I can't. I just can't understand why people are just seriously having a problem with understanding what the hell's going on. When low-wage workers are better than robots, bureaucracy can be primary driver towards job-killing automation. So now they're trying to get rid of the robots. Do you see the contention here, folks? I'm going to put that one, since I read that headline, I'm going to put that on American Liberty Radio podcast. That's what I think. They're trying to get rid of, the robots to pay people. Now, in most countries, folks, people are paid per day, not per hour. Okay? We are the only fortunate people on the planet that get paid per hour. Okay? I think. You want to correct me on that? That's fine. I don't mind. I may have overlooked something. That's okay. But yeah, that's on American Liberty Radio podcast. Yeah, so folks, why not look at everything? Why not examine the whole thing? Why not put yourself in a position to where you've got nothing left to make excuses for and look at everything? Okay? Well, I don't want to look at that because it's going to ruin my day. Your day is already ruined because the jackasses behind the scenes are planning how to, stomp you into the ground economically. They're planning on collapsing this country completely and turning it into Venezuela and turning it into a hellhole that they desire, okay, to where you're a freaking slave making $1 a day, okay? This is what they're planning on doing. I don't know about the $1 a day thing, but this is what they're planning on doing, destroying your lives, folks. Destroying your livelihood, destroying everything that you ever have made and created and built on yourself. They want to destroy it because they want you to be their slave. Period. End of sentence. 1 + 1 = 2. Go figure it out, folks. Go look at the whole thing. I don't know why people cannot understand this. I myself personally have understood this since Reagan was president, okay? I know inside out what this government plans to do. Oops, did I reveal a few things? Do I have whistleblowers sending me information? I don't know. Just because you close your eyes doesn't mean the bad things are going to go away. And if you're not looking at the obvious, if you're not examining everything around you, if you're not putting yourself in a position to where you're going to completely drop every preconceived idea that you have and just start looking at everything, you're going to have some major problems in your life pertaining to this political bullcrap going on around the world. Okay? So I encourage you to take time out to look at everything. Just forget everything you were taught in school and what you know and your preconceived ideas and just sit down and look at the world for what it is. Yeah, it's scary. I don't care if it's scary. You're going to have to face your fears because if you don't, you're going to get sucked down the drain with everybody else that is not looking at the whole thing. Folks, I'm out of here. I'm going to go away now. This is American Liberty Radio Network. AmericanLibertyRadio.com is the website. American Liberty Radio at USA.com is the email address. Please email me with your questions. I'll answer anything. No question is off limits. If I don't know, I don't know. This is American Liberty Radio Network, sharing the truth one fact at a time without all the BS.